Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel in the new year. It's my first video in the new year and it's going to be about the Behringer UB-Xa. Don't worry, it's not going to be a video about all the different sounds. It has built in all the presets. There are way too many videos on YouTube already on this. No. Today I'm asking the question, can the UB-Xa do the Vox Humana sound? Right? Famous Polymoog Vox Humana. Can it do it? Well, let's find out. So, this video is about whether the Behringer UB-Xa can do the famous Vox Humana sound, which has been made very popular by Gary Newman, playing it on the Polymoog. Regarding the Polymoog, it's quite a bit of overrated gear, I have to say. I owned one back in the day. I was pretty much a one-trick pony. More or less a organ with some filter trickery. But the Vox Humana sound was actually quite unique. You can do it on any synth which has two separate LFOs and two VCOs. That's important. Now, as it so happens, the UB-Xa has two LFOs and two VCOs. There is a modulation section up here, and there is another LFO which is called a performance LFO down here. So we're all set, right? Wait a second. The problem is that this performance LFO and all its settings, they don't get saved with the preset. And Uli, if you're hearing this, please provide a firmware update which allows us to also save the performance settings with the preset. That would be super helpful, not only for the Vox Humana sound, but for other things as well. So we have to go through a bit of trickery to make that work on the UB-Xa. And I'm going to lead you through step by step, and I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you have fun recreating it on your synth, or of course if you own a UB-Xa, recreating it on the UB-Xa, or for that matter on an OBX, if you are lucky enough to have an original one. Right, without further ado, let's get to it. Alright, so first step, select a preset you don't want anymore, and you actually need two presets ideally next to each other. So I use preset A95 for that. I called it Vox Humana 1. And then you initialize it, right, by shift and initial. And it gives you a basic flat sound. So first thing we want to do, we want to switch oscillator 1 to a sawtooth, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is we need to set the modulation. So in case you initialize your sound and you have this little trig lamp coming here, press the waveform button long and it will switch off, because we don't want to re-trigger the waveform every time we hit a key, but we want to have it really free floating. So then we need a sine wave, obviously, and then we go ahead and set the rate for the oscillator, for the LFO, to 178. I'm doing that here, 178, 177, 178, doesn't really Right, the next thing we want to do, we want to modulate oscillator 1 frequency. So we click that. And then we set the depth of the modulation to 10. And now we have a sound which sounds like that. So that's the first step. The second step is to set the filter frequency for oscillator 1. So we switch off oscillator 2, there is no lights here, oscillator 1 is on, we have full tracking on, and then we set the frequency to 240, 239, 240, something like that. Resonance is 0, modulation is 0, noise is 0. We want a 4-pole filter, and that's basically it. So that's step 2. Now we have set the filter. So we are touching only the VCA envelope, not the one for the filter. The one for the filter is not used at all. So first of all, set the attack to 102. Under 102. Sustain all the way up and release to about 104. Right. And that concludes the setting for the first voice. So we write that into our preset, right? Hit write over A94.5, yes, confirm. The name is still Vox Humana 1. So now it's saved. And now we save it again to the next preset. So hit write again, and then select the next preset, which is Vox Humana 2, confirm. And then of course we want to edit the name to be Vox Humana 2. So there we go. And then save it. Yes, confirm. Right. So now we have basically the same sound on the preset number 2. Right. So next thing is VCO number 2. We get to that to the next one. So here we are with the same settings we had before, obviously, because we copied the sound. So what do we want to do? First of all, we switch on pulse for oscillator 2, and you have to actually switch it on in the filter section first, otherwise it won't come on. So pulse, and now here's a neat little trick. If you hold down the pulse button and you turn the pulse width knob, then it will actually only change the pulse width for the first or the second pulse, depending on which one you use. We switch off oscillator 1 in the filter section. So then we press here and then we set the pulse to 66%. Now you have to be very clear on that one. It needs to be 66%. All right. So now we have set the pulse to 66. Next thing we need to do is the detune section. So detune oscillator 2 to plus 16. Plus 16, plus 17. That's very important. So now we get back to the modulation. This time we want to modulate the frequency of oscillator 2, and we also want to modulate the pulse width of oscillator 2. First of all, let's set the frequency to 177. Then set the depth to 9 for the frequency modulation. And we set the depth for the pulse width modulation to 107. This makes it sound like that. As we have copied the filter, obviously it has the same settings than we had before for the first sound. Now what we have to do now, and that's very important, we have to switch on oscillator 1. So if that is on, then switch it off. Then we want oscillator 2 on half. Again, 4-pole, we want tracking, no resonance, no modulation, no noise. We have that like before. And the VCA is obviously exactly the same as for the first patch we have created. So here's our patch. And we're going to save that patch the same way we saved before. So we go to write, say yes, confirm, we leave the name, and it's saved, right? And here is the other one we created. It's the 95. All right, so now we have our two sounds, and what we have to do now is we have to create a double. So we hit double, and then we select a patch we don't want. The doubles are selected here. It's called double, right? And there are very strange ones in there indeed. So let's select one where we think that's not worth it. They're all empty. It's all brass ensemble here. So let's take the second brass ensemble, which is D. And now we have to assign our two sounds to this double. So we click on upper. We have this little dot here which says now the upper bank is selected. And now we can take the preset buttons and cycle through until we find our just created sound number 95, which is the first part of the Vox Humana. Then we click on lower. Now you see there is a dot here, and now we can select the other one we've created, which is number 96, right? And there then you have Vox Humana. Now what you can do is the following. You can play around with the balance knob here. That balances between the first and the second sound in a double, or in a split between the upper and the lower. And so obviously you hear it change. If we go all the way to the left, and we have only our pulse width modulation, and if we go all the way to the right, we have only our sawtooth. And now you mix them both together, and I leave it usually somewhere in the middle, and that gives us that Vox Humana typical modulation. You can play around with the oscillator DETUNE. And that's pretty much it. Now we want to save our sound. So saving is done by holding the right button, and then it says you want to confirm that you want to do DC, so double number C with lower and upper 96 and 95, and we say confirm. And now we have our double save. Now obviously we can assign it to one of these preset buttons over there, and then we can always recall it super easily. I hope you've enjoyed this little video about recreating the Vox Humana sound on the Behringer UB-Xa. If you create your own sound and you create a YouTube video about it, it would be great if you link it in the comments. I'm also interested whether you think the sound nails it or it's missing something. And if you make it better, by all means post it in the comment section and link to your video with more improved Vox Humana sound. If you like the t-shirt, I have the t-shirts in my shop. There is one for obviously the UB-Xa, there is one for Prophet 5, and there is one for Moog. If you like to have other t-shirts with other iconic synths, let me also know in the comments, and I'm trying to provide those as well. Alright, so that was it for today. Happy New Year, and synth on, my friends.